Hey everybody, it's Marshall Monkey here with my Captain America Civil War movie review. Oh my gosh, this is one of the most anticipated movies of the year. We finally got here. Wow, just wow. There are nothing but great things I have to say about this movie. There are a few things that I didn't particularly, they were not bad. They were just kind of like, just a little, just a tad off that I'm going to talk about in a second. Also, before I get started with this review, spoiler alert. There's going to be major spoilers in this part of, or I guess in this whole video. There's going to be spoilers everywhere. And then also, before I also get started with this review, please, if you're going to comment or, whatever like that, or tweet me or whatever, just who knows. But if you're going to comment, please don't compare this movie to Batman v Superman. Please don't compare this movie to BVS. Because I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of people talking about which one's better. I'm tired of them, debating. It's just annoying, and I hate it. Don't make Marvel and DC get into this big battle and then forget what it's really all about. Making the fans fanboy and fangirl over the movies, right? That's what we're supposed to do. That's what, we want. And so please don't mix it all up crazily, right? Also, just because, it's just both movies are great. I love both movies. I think both movies are masterpieces in their own right. So that's why I think that I should give this movie a chance, and I don't want the comments to be filled with, things about comparing both movies. But other than that, again, spoiler warning, and then all that aside, we're going to get into this movie review. So this movie is fantastic. Oh my goodness. I shaked watching this movie. It was a thriller. It was emotional. It was funny. It was dark. I mean, there was a lot of things in this movie that was just really different and really great. There was a lot of characters in this movie, and we're going to talk about all the characters just a little bit. We're going to throw around some things based on how big each character is, and how much screen time they got. We're going to talk all about that. But I think that this movie balances pretty well between them. There are a few things that are a tad bit off, but they're not really, derailing it. It's kind of just it could have been done a tad better. It's just a tad off, just a little bit. Teensy a little bit, and we're going to get to those things in a minute. Now, before I jump into talking about some of the things in this movie, when I said don't compare BVS, I am going to be talking about something from BVS that I thought was very similar. So Batman v Superman has a part in it that's very similar to something that happened in this movie. So I'm not comparing them, I'm just talking about it. But we're not going to get to that part until later on. So this movie, basically what's going on in this film? It's about Captain America, Iron Man, and the Sokovia Accords. And it's basically based on the comic book Civil War. Now, it's not solely based on Civil War, the comic, because there's so many of the characters that they don't have. Thor is not in this movie. I mean, he's mentioned, but he's not in the movie. There's a bunch of X-Men. I think the Fantastic Four are also in that storyline. So this is a bunch of characters that they weren't allowed to use. So it's basically the MCU's version of the Civil War storyline. So Captain America, of course, long story short, Captain America disagrees with Iron Man on the Sokovia Accords, how the superheroes, or the enhanced humans, or however you want to call them, need to be registered and they need to be kept in check. Obviously, I'm Team Cap all the way, but you can see the different sides. You can kind of you understand why Iron Man feels this way, you understand why Cap feels this way. I mean, there's two sides to one coin, there's two sides to this argument, and you really do understand both sides, and you see the pros and cons of both sides. But I feel like they didn't focus too much on why Cap feels this way. I mean, he threw it out there. He was like, hey, if there's a place we need to go, the government doesn't want us there. And I feel like during the, near the end of the film, when you see, I'm going to talk about it later, but when you see the new Avengers in the prison, it really just kind of that scene tells you what Captain America was trying to say, but without Cap actually saying it, right? I mean, it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I was, Iron Man's like, maybe I was wrong. This is, government treating us differently than we'd expect. We're not working with them, we're working for them at their disposal when they need it, which could be never, or they could arrest us whenever they feel like it's appropriate. So, but on the other hand, Iron Man, it's like, we can't keep destroying these places, we can't keep killing these people, because we have to stop something on our own. We're like nukes going off. It's craziness. So you understand both sides of the argument, and I like it. And it's really like Winter Soldier. It's political thriller, and it does a really good job of showing you which parts, need to be seen of both sides. There's parts of Captain America that you're going to see his argument, like I said, about the prison. There's parts with Iron Man where you're going to see why he's correct. And it really just comes down to Zemo as well. We're going to talk about all the characters, like I said, but it's just that's what this movie is about, and it's really great. It's political. I'd say Batman v Superman, again, this is another similarity that I'm explaining for you, but it's more political, but I like this one because it's political, but it's also really not. It really just kind of balances it between political and non-political, but if you're comparing it to other political films that are in its wheelhouse, kind of like BVS, or other films, I haven't really seen other films like this, but you see how it tries to balance itself between superhero movie and non-superhero movie. Now, the tone of this film is great. I feel like they established a really good tone, and again, it balances out, because the tone shifts a lot in this movie, from between character to character. And again, we will talk about the characters. I'm promising you guys, when we get to that part. This is just my general review, then we'll do highlights. Because the tone does shift. Black Widow. There's a lot of Black Widow in this movie, and we're going to talk about that. But I feel like when it comes to her, I know why, going into this movie, I didn't think that Black Widow could be, or could get a solo film and be her own star in that solo film that she would receive. And then walking out of the movie, I was like, when is her solo film gonna get here? She was so good. And I feel like that's because of Age of Ultron and the other Avengers, team-ups, or another movie, Winter Soldier, she was in that movie, that she's really just known as this side character, or this side show to the main show, right? It's just like, she's been established as a side character. Why? And I feel like she only shows up when the Avengers are there. And especially in Age of Ultron, where she needs the Hulk, because the Hulk and her have that relationship and that love story going on with their kind of developing, that it's just kind of like treating her like a side character. And that's why I think that she hasn't gotten that recognition. But in this, there is no Hulk, and everyone's pretty much on their own sides, but they're still, like, except for, the ones like Falcon, War Machine. But Black Widow plays on her own team, which is really great in this movie, and I feel like it shows. And I like how she handles it, and I like how Scarlett Johansson plays it. And I think that her action sequences were amazing. But the tone also shifts, between when you meet Spider-Man. When you meet Spider-Man, it really just like Spider-Man solo film. Like, that's what it is. It feels like that. Or sometimes it feels like a little bit of Black Panther solo film. Sometimes it feels like a Captain America movie. Sometimes it feels like an Avengers movie. Sometimes it feels like an Iron Man movie. And the tones really shift a lot when we get to Spider-Man. That's the one that really shifts a lot when you see that scene with him and Aunt May. But, it does a good job of balancing it. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't do a really great job because it's shifting and it's not supposed to. It's supposed to have one tone. But I understand why it feels that way, because they are different personalities and they're unique. And they all mesh together at that final, or that big airport battle. So I really think that it does a good job of, setting one tone, but then at the same time it weaves the other tones in and kind of, it's like a wave, kind of just rides it a little bit. So I really like that. It's really nice. But let's talk about the action sequences. These action sequences are amazing. There is so much action. Now, the problem with a lot of action is that you crank them up to 11. I mean, there is the Nigeria fight, the car chase, the airport battle, the Iron Man Bucky Cap fight. There is so many fight sequences in this movie that when there isn't one, it kind of dials down. And it kind of like comes back down. You're like, oh yeah, baby, let's do this. And then it's like, oh, but now we're back down to this, flat line. And it's like kind of weird to me. But at the same time, it makes sense. But this is kind of like a movie that you would watch with your family, and if you like skipping to the good parts, you would skip through everything and watch all the action sequences, right? I mean, that's what it really reminds me of. Unless you just really, really love Marvel movies and you love to watch them at home. But if you don't, and you just picked up the movie to watch, you're going to skip through and to find the action sequences, and that's okay, but it feels like that, and it feels good at the same time. It's great. I mean, there were a few parts where the visual effects, especially at the airport battle, were like a little CGI-ish, like you could tell like Spider-Man or Black Panther or maybe even Vision? I don't know. There was some parts that were like kind of, but there's only so much for visual effects for this film in particular because there's a lot going on, but at the same time there's not, which is really cool. So, you can see where they could have done better, but maybe they couldn't have because of limits. So it's not that bad, and it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, overall, the action sequences are incredible in this movie. I mean, they are great. And then the cast, wonderful. We got the big Marvel players. We got Scarlett Johansson, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and then we got some of the new players coming around: Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Rudd, Paul Bettany. Like, there's a lot of people that are just kind of added on in here that they're the new Avengers. But, now the old players and the new players get to play together, which is really fun, and I really like it, because they all work together. It's weird, because it's superhero movies, whether it's Marvel, DC, or Fox, with the X-Men and Deadpool, they all find the best cast. Like, they find the best actors and actresses, and you can see it. Like, this movie in particular, though, Civil War, really shows you that. Like, I realized watching it, I was like, wow, superhero movies have the best casts. And it shows, too, because they are fantastic in this movie, especially both Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. It just really shows, and it's great, and I love it. But yeah, so overall, like I said, cast, action sequences, and the tone, pretty good. I'd say it's a really good, area in the film. And that's basically towards the first half, you really get to find that tone. So it's really great. There are a few parts of the pacing that I thought were a little, off, but just a tad. They weren't off that much, especially when they were kind of going back and forth from cities. It was kind of like, okay, you say that Bucky was seen in this city, but then he's in Vienna doing this bomb. What? It's like, and then Hawkeye comes from the United States to Europe? It doesn't make really much sense, but I guess at the same time, it does make sense. So I don't know, who knows for sure, but the pacing is, it's a little off in some areas. I don't know, it's just weird to me. But at the same time, it works, because again, it just balances out, and it's weird. Alright, so let's get to characters. There is a lot of characters, we gotta get through this. Let's start with Iron Man. I've talked about Iron Man and Captain America, but yeah, pretty much, we're going to talk about the big reveal at the Arctic base at the end. So I'm going to leave Iron Man and Captain America out. Let's just talk about the other characters, because there was a lot here. I mean, they introduced some new players, such as Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther. And I'm a huge Black Panther and Spider-Man fan, so it was nice to have both of them in the same movie and be developed so great. But we're going to get to them. Let's talk about Black Widow, because I really want to talk about her. Scarlett Johansson's fantastic in this movie, and I definitely think that she does deserve her own film, but at the same time, I think that she doesn't, because she's been here all along, and it's like, this is the first movie she's really got to prove herself, and I feel like I realized in this movie only that she needs her own solo film, but I should have realized that back when she was first introduced. That's where you should have made her solo film, like in between phase 1 and 2, or somewhere in both of those phases. Who knows, but that's where it should have been. Not phase 4, because we already have this long list of movies for phase 3. We'd have to wait till phase 4 to get her actual movie, and I feel like that's just too far. So I don't think she should get a solo film, but at the same time I do, but she was really great in this movie. I love, again, how Black Widow just played both sides, and at the airport battle, she, tried to take down Black Panther to let Cap and Bucky get away, because she does understand. Now, apparently the government is after her back now, so who knows whether or not she's gonna, not get captured or get captured, who really knows. I can't wait to see what happens to her in the next time we see her, which is gonna be really interesting. And I am really interested to see where her journey takes her. But let's talk about Vision. Vision was really great in this movie. I really liked him. He really got a lot with Wanda. And, in the comics, if you guys don't know, they are together, Scarlet Witch and Vision. I think they get married. They have kids as well in the comics. It's weird. I don't know why, but, that happens. So I really like their chemistry between each other. And I think that it's really nice that the gem, is it the Mind Gem, I'm pretty sure? I'm not really that big into Infinity Gems. But the Mind Gem, really nice how, they share the simulators of that. And he really gives that pep talk to Scarlet Witch. Speaking of Scarlet Witch, let's talk about her. Really great. I loved her. She did that big accident, Nigeria, right? How the bomb went off. She ended up killing some peoples. It's fine. She's just, needing to control her powers. And I feel like this movie really helps her establish it. I don't know. Maybe she'll need some more training. Who knows for sure? I don't even know when the next time we will be seeing her is. So when she does come back to the MCU, like whatever movie that will be, I want to see if she's been practicing her powers and maybe get more of a hang over them. But yeah, it was really nice to see her. I loved her airport battle sequences with her telekinesis, and I loved her fight with Vision in the Avengers base when she just smashes him through the ground. That was great too. Now let's talk about Black Panther. Black Panther was great. They had a great introduction for him. I loved it so much. Chadwick Boseman is Black Panther. He did it perfectly. And I really love T'Challa and Black Panther. They're both, obviously you talk about superheroes with their identities, and it's like, okay, they need to be able to play their, regular person, right? But then they're also their superhero persona. Chadwick Boseman nailed it with both T'Challa and with Black Panther. And I love his journey through the film about Bucky being framed by Zemo and him, kind of going through that and trying to put his vengeance aside by the end when he's talking to Zemo in the Arctic. So I really liked that. It was really nice. War Machine annoyed me through this movie. It was crazy. He was just like, "Oh, Cap, you're under arrest." And, when he landed a lot, and he's like, "I guess I'm gonna have to take you in, okay?" It's like, no, War Machine, you're not even relevant to what's going on right now. You're just basically here because, one, they need you in the movie because it's Civil War, and two, you're Iron Man's right-hand man. So it's kind of like, that's why you're only in this movie. You have no relevance. Of course, until when Vision has the accident where he shoots Rhodes down, and it was crazy. Rhodes, by the end, he is paralyzed, spinal cord injury, but I feel like they cheapened it with giving him those electronic legs. I don't know. Did you guys feel like that? I felt like that for a little bit, but it was okay by the end. I feel like they're going to maybe, kind of test on that matter, or, maybe address it the next time we see him, whatever that is. So that was really cool to see that as well. Falcon was amazing in this movie. He had most of the funny parts. I loved him in this movie. He kind of flowed throughout the whole movie. And I really like his, hate relationship with Bucky. Like, who's the best right-hand man to Captain America? I love it. I love when they kind of competed a tad for that spot. So I really like it. And they didn't really compete, but it's like, we have Bucky here, who's been the Winter Soldier, who's been with Cap since the beginning, and then we have Falcon, who's been Cap's, right-hand man for his time in the Avengers. So I feel like there is a little bit of competing there, and I loved Falcon in this film, and he really showed off how great of a character he can be. So I really like it. I really like him in this movie. Now, who's the next character? Have we gone over them? I'm saving Spider-Man for last, people. I think we've gone over everybody. Ant-Man. Let's talk about Ant-Man in this movie. I almost forgot about Ant-Man. How could I forget about him? He's the best character in this movie. No, I'm joking. He is a really good character in this movie. I love Ant-Man in this film. Of course, big spoiler here, but, I already said spoiler warning for you guys. Giant Man has arrived. Yes, it's happening. I love it. Now, they don't really explain anything about his new suit or anything about his new ability, but I don't know why. Maybe because there wasn't enough time. I don't know. It's weird to me. Maybe they'll explain it in Ant-Man and the Wasp, or whenever Ant-Man shows up again before that movie. But it's weird they didn't explain anything. It's like, oh, okay, let's just go along with it. But I love when he turns into Giant Man, and just like his reaction, his eyes are huge, just like, whoo, like, time to play. And then Iron Man's like, does anybody else have any special abilities? I loved it. It was fun. And I really love, Spider-Man's reaction, too. I thought that was great. But I ain't gonna say that. There's a dirty word in there, Spider-Man. I ain't gonna be saying that. But really, it was great to see all their reactions when he turned into Giant Man. And it was my reaction. I was just like, oh, did that just happen? Did you see that happen? Like, it was crazy. It was so off the chain. I loved it. I cannot wait to see Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's gonna be so much fun. And it's great. I really am excited for that movie. Now, Hawkeye in this movie, he came out of retirement a little bit to help Cap. That was really interesting, too. Obviously, they're all fugitives now. They were locked up in the movie, especially Scarlet Witch, which is just so sad to see. We're going to talk about that in a second. But, Hawkeye, he didn't even think of his family first. I mean, he did, but he wants to help Cap because Cap has been his friend for the longest time, and obviously you know how it all goes. But it's weird that, he sacrificed everything. His family and everything. He's a fugitive now, so it's going to be interesting to see how he meets up with his family. Bring back Linda to play his wife. But it's really cool to see, what's going to happen next. I liked him in this movie. He was really great. I like when he does all the trick arrows. They're so much fun, so they're great. I think I went over everybody. There's so many characters in this movie, but I think I got everybody except for Spider-Man, which we'll talk about. Did I get everybody? Yep, that's pretty much everywhere. I'm not going to talk about Sharon Carter because I feel like she wasn't even necessary in this film. But we're not going to talk about her. Let's talk about Spider-Man. Spider-Man does whatever a Spider-Man does. This Spider-Man rocks. I don't know whose choice, either was Sony's or Marvel's. I don't know who wanted Tom Holland. Thumbs up to you. Tom Holland is the greatest Spider-Man / Peter Parker I have ever seen in a film, ever in my life. I love Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and I want to see this guy in his movie right now. I want to skip Doctor Strange. I want to skip all the other movies. Just get to Spider-Man already. I want to see this movie. Zendaya is going to be in the movie. There's going to be a lot of people in here. His interaction with Tony was great in that scene. The tone, again, does shift a lot, but I feel like it's fine. I love when he gets his new suit. I love when he's like, Captain, big fan. I love that. I love when he starts the conversation. So it's really great, and I think he did a good job. And I think that the introduction to him wasn't exactly shoehorned in. It felt like a little weird to put it in there. because he's like, Tony's just like, I know a guy, and it just like cuts to Queens. But when I saw Queens on the screen, and I saw like him walking without even seeing the back of his head, I was like, let's go, baby, let's do this. Let's get some Spider-Man in here, and I loved it. It was fantastic. I cannot wait to see what they do with his solo film, and I'm excited. I really am. I think Tom Holland, again, does a really good job. I like it. I think I went over all the characters, so let's talk about the big Arctic reveal. Oh no, let's talk about Zemo too before we get to the big Arctic reveal. Zemo in this movie, and this is where I make the similarity to Batman v Superman. Again, not comparing, just saying. So in Batman v Superman, you see Doomsday come in, right? And he's just like, Doomsday, by the end, they have to do Lex Luthor, Wonder Woman, Batman, the Justice League, Superman continuation. By the end, they have Doomsday in there, and it feels like the only reason why Doomsday was in there is to make the movie come full circle. Same thing for Zemo. I feel like he really had to come full circle for the movie. But not as much, because again, they really did a good job of balancing the film, but I feel like he did have to come full circle in there a little bit. So I don't know about that, but, you know, it's there. But I really do like Baron Zemo. I really do. He's a great villain by the end. He tears apart the Avengers, which is great. The big Arctic reveal. I loved it. Tony Stark's reaction. Oh my gosh, it got me. It really did. Bucky being the one who killed Cap's parents and, you know, Iron Man finally figuring that out was really nice. And I thought it was really well done. And it really got me when he's like, you don't deserve that shield. My father made that shield. I loved it. It was so powerful. And I loved the fight with Bucky, Cap, and Iron Man. It was just amazing. And I really do think that you guys should go see this movie because of that powerful ending. That's what really sold this movie. I loved it. And I really do think it's going to cause a rift between, you know, Cap and Iron Man and the whole Avenger, like all the Avengers. It's going to be really cool to see what happens to Iron Man further on whenever we see him again. So yeah, it was nice, and I really do think that it defines what's going to be happening in the MCU. So props to the Russo brothers. They are great directors. I'm excited to see what they do with Avengers, Infinity War Part 1 and 2, although I do know that they're going to retitle those, but I can't wait to see what they do with them. So yeah, out of all, I gave it a 9 out of 10, just because, again, the pacing was a little off in some places, just a tad, and the tone shifted just a tiny bit, and then Zemo, I feel like he was just kind of there to bring the movie full circle, but I still loved the movie either way, and that's why I gave it a 9 out of 10. So what do you guys think of the movie? Comment down below. Do you guys love Captain America Civil War? Links up there to my other movie reviews. Links in there to my Twitter, Instagram, Vine, vlog channel, and Sim channel. And I am going to be doing separate videos for the end credit scenes. I'm not going to talk about them here. I'm going to talk about them in another video, separate videos, but not today. Maybe, you know, this weekend I'll probably get to those. So thanks guys for watching this, and see you guys later. So bye-bye.
You chose the wrong side.
We're still friends, right?
Depends on how hard you hit me.